Part of Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Hawks Postcast, your home for the best Atlanta Hawks talk. It's quick hitting local insight after every game. You can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me is NBA and college basketball analyst DeShaun Tate. The Hawks Postcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Now, I know basketball is a game of runs, but being run out of the building is not what that means. We'll discuss, and we'll give you our takes on how the Hawks once again gave the Washington Wizards life with a 132-113 drubbing in the district tonight. And Tate, you said having Trae Young wouldn't have even mattered tonight.
I feel like, first of all, Tenitra, I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it sounds like the Washington Wizards just hit another 3 on the Atlanta Hawks. Yes, I know that the game has concluded, and it feels like just imaginary that, this Hawks team was just looking at their imaginary watch like, can we just hurry up and get this game over with already? Especially versus a team that I think they got like 10 guys on the roster, all under the age of 23. One of the things that I really kind of put down as one of the keys to the game, which I think was my only key to the game, was, and I know that I've said this multiple times before, should have applied. Don't read the name on the front of the jerseys. Obviously, Don't look at the record. They're on a 14-game losing streak. They've only won 1, now 2. This one, they beat the crap out of the Hawks so bad that it probably should account for 2 wins. All in one for the Washington Wizards, but it just seems like they just, I know that I've mentioned this multiple times, but it's like they just couldn't miss on purpose. You got a guy that hit for like 10 threes. Corey Kispert was going off. Who knows if he wouldn't have gotten injured, how much more that he would have just lit up the Hawks by. And Trae Young just would not have mattered. I know people are going to have this narrative when they go back and look at this game and say, oh, without Trae Young. And there's going to be certain games you can probably feel that way about, feel strongly. Let's just be honest. This one wouldn't have mattered. They look like the Monstars out there. They could have beaten the Harlem Globetrotters tonight, talking about the Washington Wizards. They just could not miss a shot. Doesn't make a difference. Yes, I'm saying it. Trae Young wouldn't have mattered, especially if we're having the kind of conversations about the concerns we have about the defense on tonight. And I know how so many people feel about the narrative behind Trae Young's inability to play defense halfway decent. Then it certainly wouldn't have made a difference on tonight. So I just wanted that to kind of be known. Would have made a difference having number 11 out there. Just a really bad performance by the Atlanta Hawks. And I'm going to say this real quick because I know you want to give your take. It's just something I was thinking of when I was watching the game. If Tenitra Batiste is the head coach of the Atlanta Hawks after tonight, do you destroy the film on this game, or do you keep it for whatever reason that Tenitra Batiste has behind it to maybe motivate them or whatever? What says you, Tenitra?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, because I do agree that mentally you have to flush this game and play like it didn't happen, because you do have to get ready for your next game. However, if I'm Quinn Snyder, I'm still keeping the tape, because at some point there have to be some things that you saw other than the obvious, which is you didn't come to play from the start of the game pretty much all the way through until the end. The obvious of, hey, we're just not going to guard the perimeter, even though this team is just absolutely torching us from deep. Oh, we're just not going to guard it. So I think that once Quinn Snyder has an opportunity, and if I were Quinn Snyder, I would take my 24 hours to breathe, and then I go back and look at it and say, okay, real talk, what happened? What were some of the things that I never want to see again, like Jalen Johnson dribbling, when he knew that they were just collapsing on him like, you all they got, so we're just going to make the rest of the team win, and we're just going to give you fits, Jalen Johnson. So that would be my reasoning for not throwing out the tape. But I would flush it out in the short term, because I know at the end of the day, those guys have to reset and get ready for a Friday night game. What would you do?
I don't know, because I see sometimes I feel like decisions like that are based on what type of team you have. What's the personnel of the guys on the team? Like,
sure,
will it hurt them more by pushing it in their face more, or are they those junkyard dog types that feed off of that type of energy? Mm-hmm. And this team kind of makes me feel like kind of makes me feel like it's best to just burn the tape and pretend that it didn't happen. I mean, I think that you do push it in their face just one good time. I don't know if you just kind of hold on to it and go through practice and let the second string and third string wear, Washington Wizards practice jerseys or anything like that. I don't know if I'm willing to go that far, but I do think that there is some good that comes out of those situations. I'm just not sure if I want to kind of force feed it, if you will.
Yeah, no, I would just keep it in my back pocket, however, because I have a sneaking suspicion that with the way Quinn Snyder's mind works, there will be some things that maybe he sees when he looks at that tape that maybe weren't as obvious because it just felt like it was an absolute drubbing. But when you drill down into the details, I'm sure there are some learning points for the Hawks, another team that, while not as young as the Washington Wizards, young enough so that maybe there are some things that they could take away down the road if he feels like that's necessary. Now, my take, a little bit of a different take, albeit still about Trae, because, hey, I said surviving an injured Trae, that's one thing. The Hawks have actually survived an injured Trae Young very well.
They have.
Meaning everybody has truly taken the next man up mentality, the next man up philosophy, and really, really bought into it. And I think that's why we've seen them, other than tonight, really, really, even when they lose a game, we've seen them do so well to bounce back, or we have actually seen them win and be able to put together a string of wins, right? But in this case, what I'm saying is this. Surviving an injured Trae Young, that's one thing, and that's what you were able to do. But when I start talking about surviving an absent Jalen Johnson, that's a whole nother ballgame. That's a whole nother ballgame. Because really that was your 1-2 punch, right? Those were the two that you thought were going to put you in contention this season to maybe finally get out of the play-in round, maybe even miraculously with everything going on and everything that is awry in the Eastern Conference with Boston and with Indiana, maybe you sneak into that top 4 as well, right? But you can't do it if your star player and if your star player is injured and absent, and if your burgeoning star is available but still absent. And hey, listen, I say this with all sincerity, DeShaun. I know that every player has an off night. So the fact that Jalen Johnson only attempted to make 12 shots is an anomaly. The fact that he only scored 7 points, 7 rebounds, an anomaly. I don't need to see him necessarily have 7 assists because that means you're handling the ball a little bit too often. So I don't want to see that stat necessarily again, unless it is like a legit third leg of a triple-double. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, again, this was one of those games where he just had an off night. He was just out of sync, and it felt like the rest of the team kind of went right there along with him, where just about everybody was out of sync, maybe except Kristaps Porzingis with 22 points in 22 minutes, 8 rebounds. Not a bad night for him, but ultimately, if we're looking at the bigger picture, and Onyeka Okongwu with 20 points in 19 minutes to go along with 3 rebounds. But again, in the general scheme of things, those are like drops in a pond, drops in an ocean.
That is so true. And I mean, as you look at it, obviously the schedule is just going to get tougher from here. Obviously, as we anticipate not having Trae with, Philly going to be coming up in a minute, and Cleveland as well. Another game with Detroit. I don't know if I'd be so, tore up about this that I can't wait to get my hands on Washington again.
Yeah. And you won't have to wait long.
No, you won't on the 6th of December. But I will say too that you can forget all that group play and Emirates Cup and all of that. Like, I get it. You played for it. You competed for it last year. You made a good run at it. But I think that there's bigger fish to fry between getting your star player back healthy, trying to just survive, not having him, and just trying to survive in general, because they've played a lot of games in a very short span of time. A lot of those have been on the road, so you can only imagine with the travel schedule and things like that, and just health concerns. Sometimes you got KP, sometimes you don't. I think that was the other part that was a little bit slightly discouraging, was not only how well that Washington shot from 3, but how well they did in the painted area as well, while having Onyeka Okongwu and Kristaps Porzingis both, which doesn't happen very often. I thought that was a little bit of a discouraging sign for Atlanta.
Yeah, because we've been talking about that shaky presence inside, and I felt like that had gone away the last couple of games, but now it feels like we're right back to square one. And speaking of square one, that's kind of where the turning point happened tonight. This episode of our Locked On Hawks postcast is brought to you by Robinhood. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All investments involve risk, including loss of principal. Options, futures, and crypto trading carry significant risk and may not suit all investors. Securities offered through Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Futures trading is offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC and not SPIC or FDIC protected. Crypto offered through Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Portfolio management offered by Robinhood Strategies, an SEC registered advisor. This episode of our Locked On Hawks postcast is also brought to you by Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. Drip Drop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I like using Drip Drop as part of my daily routine, mixing a packet in the morning before the gym or doing that during that midday slump. And hydration has become non-negotiable for me. Drip Drop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly, just better overall. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. So go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. This episode of our Locked On Hawks postcast is also brought to you by Game Time. Basketball season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. So you can use Game Time to grab seats for the Hawks when they come with the bounce back game, and it can't be any simpler. You can have great seats in minutes, and their zone deals are a game changer. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply, but that's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Hey, I don't know what that noise is, but it's got to stop. So one of the things that I want to say, because this is a tough night for us, a tough night for the fans, is we appreciate you guys for locking in with the Hawks postcast and making it your first listen of the day, no matter what. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Now, listen, unfortunately, it just wasn't the Hawks night. They didn't go to the district to play tonight. And the opening tip was then the turning point.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
DeShaun, I don't know how else. I mean, it was just crazy. We're talking about the Washington Wizards making 8 of their first 8 3-pointers. The Washington Wizards getting 31 points on 16 possessions to start the game. And that's why I said, really and truly, this game was called at tip-off.
And it was, when you talk about, this being a Wizards team that, got out to a 16-0 run early in the game's first 5 minutes in the first quarter. I looked up, the score was 18-2. I thought, well, the game just started. I might be able to go downstairs and grab me a little bottle of water or something like that, or whatever the case may be, before this thing really. And then I come back, and then it's even worse. It seems like it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. In that particular span, the Atlanta Hawks shot 1 for 11 from the field, and 2 of their, how many turnovers tonight? Close to about 19, I think it was, 19 turnovers or something. Way too many times that they've been turning the ball over and just giving it away. Again, I always remind you, I'd rather be taking an ill-advised shot and questionable shot selection, having a 50-50 chance at making it, than to be giving the ball to the other team. In that span, of course, you've got, which was a little bit frustrating, and I don't want to put everything on this guy, but this part frustrates me a little bit. Kristaps Porzingis had 4 3-point attempts in that 5-minute span. He went 0 for 4. Meanwhile, went 2 for 3 from 2-point conversion. Get a little bit closer to the basket as the biggest guy on the floor only makes sense to me. I still have some sour grapes about that. And, of course, C.J. McCollum had 4 converted 3-pointers, went 4 for 4, as did Kispert. But just when you thought that the Atlanta Hawks can maybe put some things together and piece it together, they end the first quarter on a 9-0 run, still trailing by 22. I just don't understand the logic behind it. And, of course, in retrospect now, clearly seems like it wasn't going to make a difference. But I still thought that there was some questionable moments from a coaching standpoint by Quinn Snyder, where when that whole thing was going on, of course, he waits until the score is 32-8. And there's like 4 minutes remain, 4, 5, 6 minutes remaining in the first quarter. You put in Onyeka Okongwu, you take out Kristaps, you put in Kennard, you take out JJ, you put in Krejci, who's been lighting it up lately from 3, you take out Nikhil, and then you insert Mohamed Gay and take out Zachary Risachet. That decision probably, to me, I would like to think should have been made at least a little bit earlier, if not nothing else, just to set the tone, let guys know, hey, you guys aren't putting it together. There's nothing guaranteed with playing time when you perform and look this way against such a terrible team. Yeah,
especially when you think about the fact that he actually took 3 timeouts in those first 6 minutes. You would have thought that maybe that would have yielded something, and it really didn't matter. And I love that Jody V79 maybe said it best. The effort was just unserious tonight. I mean, it was just unserious on the part of the Hawks. And then this is a question that we were actually asking ourselves, and it looks like it's SRVTECEJ. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but ultimately there's the question that he poses that we were going to pose as well. So appreciate you for thinking the same. Like, this isn't the first time this has happened with the Wizards. Now, it hasn't happened this season because this is game 1 against Washington, but last year, the Hawks were the get-back game for Washington a couple times too. And yeah, there has been a little bit of turnover on that roster, but there are still some core players on that roster. And honestly, it just makes you wonder, like, what is it with Washington for Atlanta other than playing down to the level of the competition?
And I don't even think it's just them, though, Tenitra. When you look at these 3 teams, you go back and look at how they've performed, how the Atlanta Hawks have performed against these 3 particular teams over the course of these 3 particular years. You got the Charlotte Hornets, you have the Washington Wizards, and you have the Toronto Raptors. For whatever reason, none of these 3 teams competing for anything. There's just, and I get it, you're going to go into the rivalry against the Hornets and whatever else will have you narrative that you want to create. At the end of the day, you can't look as bad. And I'm not talking about just for one game. You go back and look at the series against all 3 of those teams. The Hawks just haven't performed well. And I don't give a darn if it's on the road or at home. Something about those games, it just doesn't really sit right with me, and clearly not with the team.
Yeah, and for some reason, I'm okay with Charlotte. I don't know why. I think it's because it just has always seemed like a 50-50 battle, right? Like we almost walk into every season for the past 3 or 4 seasons saying, hey, Hawks are just going to split the series with the Hornets. I don't know. Maybe I've gotten with them. And even with the Bulls, by the way, I know the Bulls are now good this season, but that's another one that no matter whether the Bulls are playing good, average, or bad ball, they measure up very, very well with the Hawks, and the Hawks are lucky to get out of the season with a split. But I don't know about you, DeShaun, but the Wizards, of the 3 that you just mentioned, that's the one that makes me feel some type of way because they've been down bad for so long.
No,
Like,
they have
that for so long. And you and I have been having this conversation about the Hawks struggling against them for so long. I think that's what really agitates me. And it's a head scratcher because it'll be just random. And I don't mean random role player. I mean just a random situation. Like tonight's random situation was the Wizards shooting over 50% from three and CJ McCollum hitting just about everything that he threw up no matter what. But I want to just say this too before we wrap up. I agree with you in that, unfortunately, this does not bode well for cup play. Unfortunately, this is not how you want to go into Thanksgiving, but it is just one game. And that's the only way, to me, we're going to have peace of mind looking at this.
No, that makes perfect sense to me. I guess that'll be the other interesting part. Got a game coming up on Friday. Who's going to be loaded down on turkey, and what kind of narratives and excuses are we going to give the team? Not saying that they'll lose, but these are all obviously Cleveland being a credible team and got some interesting ones coming up after that. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And looking forward to see how exactly things are going to go with this team after the break, because they've got some things that I think that they have to get together, especially when you're one of the top 2 or top 3 best teams in terms of pace, transition points, fast break points. And the way that you let Washington run up and down the floor on you, you would have thought it was the Indiana Pacers from last year.
Yeah, indeed. So hopefully they'll be able to bounce back fast. The Hawks Postcast is the #1 place to hang out after every game and is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more on the Hawks, head over to Locked On Hawks with our guy, Brad Rowland. We'll see you next time, and happy Thanksgiving.